think I started with another protozoans and some worms. Okay, so quick summary, please. Okay, fine, Mamuna, you just connect your mic, it's fine. And then you let me know when your mic is connected. By then, Alia, how about you giving a summary today?
Okay, so
Yep.
so yesterday we started with an amoeba histolytica. It is a amoeba
Amoeba.
which
Amoeba. Yes.
amoeba, yeah,
I have
uh,
struggled a lot with this.
amoeba which amoeba which degrades the tissue. So
You know what I used to call it? Sorry, just I used to call it amoeba because that's exactly how we write it. But yes, please continue.
yes, sir. Okay, so it degrades the tissue. It is a protozoa parasite, and it mostly affects the large intestine. It causes the amoebiasis, the amoebic
Yes.
dysentery. The housefly acts as a mechanical carrier, as it transmits the parasite from the feces
The,
of infected person to food and food products, thereby contaminating them.
if you cannot
And
remember feces as a word or a spelling, you can write excreta or excreted waste. Okay. Yeah.
okay, sir. Yes, sir. And the symptoms of this parasite is the abdominal pain, cramps, stool with excess mucus and blood clots, constipation at the early stages. Sorry. Um, then moving on, we studied helminthes. It's it is the scientific name for parasitic worm. Um, and in this we did Ascaris, the common roundworm, and Wuchereria, the
Wuchereria.
Flavian worm,
CH
Wuchereria.
in biology at many places is just K. Okay, like in mitochondria. I remember one of my friend used to call it mitochondria. So it's not Wuchereria, it's Wuchereria. Okay. It is also C somewhere. Like in cholera, CH is
Wuchereria.
cholera, Wuchereria, mitochondria. It's also CH is also CHA somewhere. I don't know where it is, but
Okay,
it is. Yeah. Continue.
okay. So Ascaris, this is an intestinal parasite, and it causes ascariasis. The symptom for this is internal bleeding, muscular pain, fever, anemia, blockage of the intestinal passage. The infected person um, feces can contaminate soil, water, plants, etc. Then
Yes.
we take Wuchereria. Um, it it has two species. First, Wuchereria bancrofti, and second is Wuchereria melai. Um, it is a slowly developing chronic inflammation of organs in which they live for ages, and it can result lymphatic vessel to form a gross deforming, and this disease the disease caused by this pathogen is the pathogen can be transferred by to the healthy person by a female mosquito.
Yes, right. Then we also studied some fungi
Then
based.
we did yes, so then we did trichophyton and epidermophyton, which causes the ringworms. This is a fungi and genus, and it comes under the Microspora. The symptoms scaly lesions, And hot and moisture can help them grow more. It can be spread by soil, shared clothing, combs of the infected person. Then you give the homework for tomato pox, smallpox,
Yeah,
chickenpox.
I in general asked you to
And
go
we
and
also did the
yes, we also did.
yes, sir. We also did the base how we can prevent all these diseases, all these infections and all.
Yes, we discussed about if the mode is through a vector, what we can do
Yes,
and all
sir.
that thing. Yes. And I in general asked you to go back and look at poxes, right? Tomato pox, chicken pox, monkey pox, smallpox. Did you go back and look at their causative agents? What causes these poxes?
Kind of, yes, sir.
Yes. So what did you figure out?
So, like in chicken pox, in smallpox, it is also known as variola. Um, it is a disease. It is a eradicated virus that used to be contagious and disgusting and mainly and it can be often deadly. But
Yes.
but this destroy like if you remember, um, this virus stopped after I think
We eradicated it, right? We through
1980
vaccinations, we
as
eradicated it.
there was a as the vaccine. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The vaccine was as a special smallpox vaccine. So now it's like in India, it's very rarely to get this virus. It's like
It's like
5,000 cases in India per year. Um, yes, sir.
yeah, okay, right. You're right. So you figured it out for
And
smallpox. Anything else you figured it out?
then chickenpox. It's also known as varici, nee, varicella. It's also highly contagious, but once you get this, the body makes antibiotics and it can fight. And later, if you get it, the body fight against it.
Yeah, so they are cousin viruses. Okay, chickenpox and smallpox, variola and varicella. What causes tomato pox and monkeypox? Anyone figured that out?
The tomato pox is Entevovirus. Entevovirus.
Okay, so even if you don't remember the name, just know that this is a kind of enterovirus. Again, a virus, enterovirus. The name that she's saying, if you do not remember the name also, it's okay. And what about monkeypox, Alia?
Yeah, I wasn't able to find the monkeypox. I just
Could
see
not
the
find the monkeypox
symptoms.
virus.
Sorry, yes, sir. It was zoonotic virus.
Yes, it's a zoonotic virus, but what is the virus called?
Orthopox virus.
It is called a monkeypox virus.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but all these are viruses, right? They are all viral infections, just like COVID, correct? COVID is a viral infection,
Yes, sir.
but they end up causing pox of some or the other kind on the skin, okay, lesions. And these lesions, again, because they are on the surface, so there'll be pus developed, and if you come in contact with the pox or the fluid from the pox, you can get infected. So how to prevent this? So basically all of them start with rashes or small poxes on the body. The severity differs in all. Again, when the infection happens, there is fever. In smallpox, there is very severe fever and body pain that also happens along with it. And the most deadly among the all is smallpox. So if you say which is more deadly, this is very deadly. Chickenpox is not that deadly, it's moderate. Tomato pox and monkeypox are slightly higher then chickenpox in severity, and smallpox is the most severe. But we have been able to eradicate smallpox through vaccinations. Okay, so today I'll be touching, why I asked you to go through this part as a homework is because today we'll be starting with something called immunity. So you all know what is immunity or what is immune system. This you have studied in class 11th in human physiology, I think some part. Have you
Yes, sir.
studied immune system? Yes, Nabil. So
Yes, sir.
would you like to help me with some aspects of it? What is the immune system or what is immunity?
Sir, it is the ability of the body to protect itself from foreign pathogens or anything that can attack the body. For
But
instance,
then why does not it protects? We have just studied all those diseases that happen. Where is immunity when all these diseases happen? Where is
uh,
your immunity for COVID? COVID
sir,
happens, right?
it,
Yeah.
there are two types of it. One is acquired immunity, other is innate immunity. Innate
Okay.
immunity
We
is what
will come to the innate immunity part, but we are just trying to understand immunity first. So if we define immunity, how will we define it? Immunity of a body.
ability of the body to protect itself against foreign agents or foreign infectious agents.
Okay. So write down everyone. Immunity, let's define the overall ability. We are including everything, bacteria, virus, protozoa, worms, everything. So the overall ability of the body, in this case it is the host organism's body, because the pathogen's body also will have some ability to infect, right? They will produce toxins. So the overall ability of the host organism's body to fight against the disease causing or infection causing organisms due to an immune system, due to an immune system present is called immunity. Does the definition make sense to all of you? Is everyone clear with this definition, people?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me come to this thing, due to an immune system present. So what is this immune system? What is this immune system present?
It is an adaptation of the body. It consists of many cells and tissues which are organized to carry out defenses against these external agents or pathogens.
Yes, very well said. So this is a system, which means it includes many things together. So from your skin is also a part of an immune system, right? You know why your skin is an immune system's part?
Sure, because it prevents other things from outside to come inside our body.
Yes, so it's like the outer covering, which is actually dead, right? So it comes under a physical barrier. So the outer layer of our skin is dead. That's why any bacteria or any virus that lands on our skin cannot affect us directly from outside, because it cannot just enter into the living cell and cannot start multiplying. So just because things are, thank you so much. Yeah, sure. Just because pathogens are lying on our skin, they cannot affect us, infect us. In case of COVID also, till the COVID is on your palm, hands. So that's why they say wash your hands, sanitize your hands, and you will be safe. So starting from skin, which is the outermost layer, to cells which are present inside our body in the blood, they all compromise a big system which is known as the immune system. Even the tears, even our saliva, they also become a part of the physical barriers of the immune system. Tears keep clearing. So because eyes is a living, through eyes many things can enter the body. You know that, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And that's where tears come in. And what is the nature of tears? How are tears? Are they just chemically, what are tears?
So salty.
Salty. I think sweat is salty, right? If tears are salty, I don't know if they're salty, but they may be very well. I don't. But more than, what is one property of tears that actually helps in defense? They are slightly acidic. That's why tears irritate the eyes. If someone cries for a very long, like if someone has cried over something very much, the next morning you can actually see puffy eyes, right? You can make it out from their eyes that they have cried. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That's because along with killing the pathogens, it is also irritating our own cells of the eyes or nearby. Okay, very well. We'll come to all of this in a moment. So you understood what is immune system? It
Yes,
is various different structures and tissues. Write down. Various different structures, layers, and tissues of the body and cells. Various different structures, layers, tissues, and cells in the body. I hope and you won't mind if I can eat something along with the class. Anyone has any problem?
No, sir.
No? Right?
No,
Okay.
sir.
So various structures, layers, tissues, and cells organized in our body to defend it against pathogens and antigens. To defend it against pathogens and antigens. Now let's come to the part that Nabil was talking about. So talking about immunity, Nabil said that there can be two types of immunity. Would you like to put some light on that, Nabil?
There are two types, sir: acquired immunity and innate immunity. Acquired, as the name suggests, it is acquired during the lifetime of the person, whereas innate, as the name again suggests, it is already present since birth inside the body of the individual.
Okay. So is these two types of immunity that you talked about, are they present in all organisms? What do you think?
I don't think all of them, sir, because in innate immunity we have our skin, but many of the microbes they don't have skin, so they're prone to external attacks.
Okay, but let's say, what about plants? Do you think plants have immunity?
They have innate immunity,
So,
but
but they also don't have skin, right? Like you
yes, sir,
said,
but they have
yeah.
outer layers. They have the
So
outer,
bacteria also has a cell wall, no? Don't you think?
yes, sir.
But complete your answer. What were you saying?
But in the case of plants, I don't think there are any antibodies, as in the case of us humans and animals.
Yeah, but antibodies come not in the innate immunity part. They come in the acquired immunity.
Yes, sir.
But do you think that plants do have something right from their, not birth, but from their germination, that protects them against diseases? Because
Yes,
we
sir.
know that there are bacteria, fungus, and viruses that targetedly just infect plants. They are called plant viruses, like tobacco mosaic virus. It infects the tobacco plant.
Yes, sir. Because Since before germination, they have the seed coat that protects them from infections. During the then during and after germination, for example, when the plant becomes a tree, its bark is basically a large mass of dead cells that also
Yeah.
provide protection, and
Mhm.
in fact they are covered with thin membranes, so
Yes.
which help in protecting the plant against external infectious agents.
Yeah, very well thought. So, but for this chapter, we will just focus on animals, and also in animals, we'll focus on humans. But I'm just giving you a context of immunity. So, write down a few things. And by Nabil's answer, I got reminded of a thing. Remember, I taught you vegetative propagation, where cutting and layering was a
Yes.
type, right? Yes, Saifullah, I think you got reminded of something. Tell us. Your yes was very motivating. What did you remember?
Vegetative propagation, you taught us that one.
Okay, so in vegetative propagation, when we were grafting, remember I taught you grafting? Take one branch and put it on another stem, shoot on a root system,
Yes.
grafting.
Yes.
What we used to do there, we always used to cover the tissue by a plastic sheet or something to avoid infection. Remember I told you this? We make a small cut, put another tissue in it, and then cover it so that there is no infection in the living tissues, which again tells that plant can get infection, and if they are getting infection, they must be doing something to fight against it. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And about innate and acquired, only vertebrates are known to have acquired immunity. Invertebrates do not have acquired immunity. Okay, they have other complex mechanisms that might mimic to some extent. In some organisms, it has been reported that they have something which helps them to learn and to make their response different. But majorly, the components which are there in acquired immunity are missing. I will teach you about those components today. But write down some points before we move forward. Invertebrates only have innate immunity. Invertebrates only have innate immunity, whereas vertebrate animals have both innate and acquired immunity. Have both innate and acquired immunity. You cannot have acquired without innate, so that's Hello, am I audible and visible, people?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I just lost some. There was some glitch and I lost the internet for some time. Okay, let me share it again. Okay, can you all see it? Are we back?
Yes, sir.
So what I was saying before I left.
Sir, you said that invertebrates have only innate, whereas
Yes.
vertebrates have acquired and
Yes, so invertebrates like flies and all these worms, they have innate immunity, but vertebrates have both innate and acquired immunity. Okay, now coming to what these innate and acquired is, so write down. There are two types of immunity that's possible. One is innate, and which Nabil explained quite brilliantly. So innate and acquired. And as the terms themselves suggest, innate is by birth and acquired is developed after birth. Now, before I move forward and start telling you facts, let's do some brain exercise. And you think logically, if an immunity is present from birth, so don't you think it's like a default immunity? Like it will not be, what do you think? Will it be very, very specific to pathogens? Before birth, do we know that what kind of pathogens are we going to encounter and what kind of infections are we going to have?
no, sir.
No, right? It's like when we go to some random place about which we don't know a lot, we do some, some general, we always keep some general things which are of utility. Some things we always understand when we go to that place or when we do that job. For example, you're doing a job and you know that in general, if it is a technical job, I need some expertise in computers and some expertise in this and that, some digital equipments. But when you do that, you understand that, okay, I specifically need to know more about this particular technology. Yes or no? Yes. So there are some particular things, there are some in general things. So innate immunity, which comes by birth, it's like a module fitted in the body that in general, and the best kind of example is earlier, like Windows setups or these computers used to come with something called firewall. So it's an in general defense mechanism of your operating software. But on the top of it, you can even put specific antiviruses which can identify different types of viruses in your computer and can protect you against it. You understand? So over time, some security patches are downloaded in the system. That's acquired immunity against pathogens. And innate does not recognize every pathogen in like per se. It just knows that something which is not useful in the body and which might cause damage, I just have to kill it, degrade it. So that's innate immunity. It's general, it's not specific, and it's a broad range. You understand? Makes sense, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, how do you think? So with innate, we are born with, so we can't do anything much about it. But how do you think we acquire immunity afterwards when we are born? What causes us to acquire some immunity? People?
Sir, exposure to some specific pathogens.
Exactly. What do you mean by that? Can you just give an example?
For instance, take COVID, sir. Some people in the initial wave,
Perfect.
some people, despite not having any vaccines or despite not having vaccines in the initial period, the initial wave of COVID, even though they acquired COVID, they just got a mild cold or any cold like
Yes.
symptom.
Yes.
Then
So
later
there,
on, the tests came. They went to take the test. They found out that they already had COVID and they also recovered from it.
yes. So there could be two reasons behind it. One, the virus that they were infected with was a milder strain. One. Second, their immune response was good. So there are different degree of immune response which happens, but just after the first exposure, everybody learns. So acquired immunity only comes after exposure. Just remember that. It is something we learn with experience. You will not learn about computers if you will never go to a computer class. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Like we are born with certain knowledge. For example, we all are born with certain fears of falling. No organism likes to fall. No one has to teach an organism that do not fall, it is dangerous for you. We just are acquired to, be fearful of falling. For example, fearful of from fire. Animals are afraid of fires, right? Even without knowing what it will do to them. Even if you just first time an animal is encountering fire, it will just run away from it. Make sense or not? So fear of
Yes, sir.
falling, a predator, a prey always have a fear from a predator. So these are something we are born with some knowledge. So our body is also born with some certain degree of knowledge about various things which are harmful to the cell. But other things, specific things, we learn about when we encounter them. So can we say that more exposure leads to a better immunity?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you keep a person very protected in a glass chamber with no dust particle right from the birth, so the person will not have any disease, but the immunity will also not develop, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the person becomes more susceptible. And that's exactly the reason. Have you seen the trend of any kind of pathogenic infection that happens? Countries which are either poor or developing, they are hit, of course, it originates and they hit the people living in poor conditions, but you will see that the most robust immune system also are of these people only. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Because we as people living in India and exposed almost to thousands of pathogens in our life, we can tolerate many of them, right? But people who are living in developed countries where these like these pathogens are they're not exposed to, they might never develop an immunity against it, and the moment they will encounter it in later stages of the life, they fall severely sick. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So exposure is a good thing from immunity's perspective, but not a good thing from society's perspective. Now we should not go looking for exposures like let me go and take this pathogen because it will acquire immunity. Also know that your immune system can also fail to defeat the pathogen. Yes or no? But it will try for sure. Every human who, even if they died with COVID, it was not like their body did not respond to it. Their body did respond to it, but it failed to overcome the infection. So there is a risk also in learning. Have you heard of this very old saying that गिरते हैं शह सवारे मैदान जंग में? So
No, sir.
if it says that only the warriors fall in a war ground. So those who are mounted on a saddle and are fighting the war will only fall. Those who are just looking as a spectator from distance will not fall, right? So you being victorious or you getting defeated is both are possible when you are in conflict with pathogens or these microorganisms. Okay, but yes, if you survive your first encounter, you have better chances to not die in the second encounter. Can you tell me why? From the same pathogen, given that the pathogen is same, not mutated. Can you tell me why is that?
We now learn how to beat the same pathogen.
Yes, we have a memory now. We know how to defeat the pathogen. So if we have done it once, we can do it over and over again. And the next time we'll do it even better because we will be prepared. We already will know what to do. When the first encounter happens, body also spends a lot of time understanding what to do, and then we do it. But the second time the same pathogen enters, we already know what to do. So we just do it. Okay, that's why the second response, immune response, is always vigorous than the first immune response. You can write down certain things while we are discussing, because these things will come up later and I will use these things to explain concepts. So write down about the innate immunity first. Let's take on the first type, which is innate immunity. Write down. Innate immunity is non-specific, and present from the time of birth. And basically innate immunity, write down, basically innate immunity is like a barrier, barriers at different levels in our body, at different levels in our body. Okay, now what are these layers? Let's first start with the first layer that we also started with, was skin. So we call them physical barriers. You can also write that there are innate immunity consists of 4 types of barriers. So there'll be 4 types of barriers: physical, physiological, cellular, and then inside the cell, molecular. So we'll go from top to bottom, bigger to smaller. So first is physical barrier, which is right from the birth. All these are present right from the birth. So what comes in physical barrier? Write down. Skin on our body is the first barrier that prevents entry of microorganisms. Okay. Anything else that can act as a barrier, a physical barrier, according to you, apart from skin? So the places where skin is absent, what is present?
Sir, mucus.
Yes, like nose, mouth, lining, inner lining. So skin and mucus present, because mucus is lining the whole, it's covering the whole lining, internal lining of our body, whether it's nose, ears, mouth, intestines, small, large, stomach, everything is lined by mucus. So second is mucus. Write down. Mucus coating lines the epithelium of respiratory, digestive, urinary, all tracts. All the tracts, all the inner linings are lined by mucus. And what do mucus do? How do they act as a barrier? What is the benefit of mucus?
So it traps the.
Yes, microorganisms just get stuck to it. It is sticky in nature, right?
Yes, sir.
Down. It traps all the pathogens and microbes that are entering our body or that may enter the body. So is this part clear, everyone? Physical barrier?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Now, coming to the next part, as we go inside the body, so these were the outer layers. As we go inside, now we start into physiological barrier. Physiological barriers are everything that are secreted from within the body and act also stays in the body, not at the outer layer. For example, acid is in the stomach. So if something is not trapped by the mucus and it enters the body, then first thing it will, and if it enters through the mouth, then the first thing it will encounter is acid in stomach. And acid on a daily basis, let me tell you, whenever we are eating food, we are drinking water, we are ingesting a lot of viruses and bacteria, but all of them never affect us because we have acid in the stomach, so they get degraded, digested and broken down. Okay, so none of them can reach a living cell, enter inside it and multiply and replicate and cause infection, because right in the acid they get destroyed. Okay, and apart from acid in stomach, other things are which are milder than this is saliva in mouth, and then anything you can think of, tears from eyes. So basically all these three you can write down. They prevent microbial growth. They prevent microbial growth. Is it clear?
The sweat from the skin can be good, sir.
Sorry, tell me.
Sweat, sir, the sweat from the skin.
Sweat. Actually, it's quite, if you look at in a way, sweat is more of like a mechanism which is to excrete. It's an excretory mechanism more than defense mechanism. Okay, so sweat excretes out certain things which the body does not need. For example, excess salt and some water to cool down the surface temperature. Instead of preventing us from infections, these sweat glands can get infected themselves, and that causes acne and pimples on the body. So they're actually, instead of defending, they're actually are the places where infections can happen the most. If your sweat pore is open and you do not clean your face on a regular basis, that's why they are said that sweaty skins, those whose skin are oily, because these sweat glands also secrete oil, right?
Yes, sir.
So if your skin is oily, if you are sweaty, then you should clean or wipe your face more often. Otherwise, you'll get more acne and pimples. So more than a defense mechanism, I think it's an excretory systems part. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Maybe? Okay. So this was a physiological barrier. They all prevent microbial growth. Sweat do not actively prevent microbial growth. That's why we are not putting it here. Tear and saliva, on the other hand, does that. And in fact, in sweat, microbes can grow and cause acne and pimples. Now, third is we are going inside from physiological to cellular level. So they are cellular barriers. Cellular barriers, you can write down. These are all different types of cells which are produced in the body that have the ability to recognize an antigen or a foreign particle or a pathogen and then kill it. Okay, mark it and kill it. So for example, write down cells like WBCs. You know what is a WBC?
Yes, sir.
Yes, they are called white blood cells. And what is their scientific name?
Why leukocytes?
Yes, they are also called leukocytes. Okay, so they consist, and you know that blood is a tissue. Yes, it's the only liquid tissue in our body. So write down cellular barriers consists of some types of white blood cells like neutrophils. So neutrophil is a type of white blood cell. Neutrophils. They are a type of white blood cell, and they are also defense mechanism cells.
Sir, can you say from cellular barriers again?
Okay. What did I say, Nabil? Can you tell me?
So some WBCs, that is white blood cells or leukocytes, they help in protecting the body against external agents. Some of them include neutrophils. Then
Yes. So is it clear? Do you want Nabil to repeat again? Nabil, you can go slow. Go a little slow from the beginning. Because the point is, I don't know how to repeat exactly the same. So
yes.
go a little slow. Yeah.
So cellular barriers include some WBCs. These WBCs are also called as white blood cells or leukocytes. Now, some of these WBCs include, which work as cellular barriers, include neutrophils, and, monocytes. And that's it.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Done.
Done. Okay. So 3 types of white blood cells: neutrophils, monocytes. There are also basophils and lymphocytes. So out of these 4, basophils, monocytes, neutrophils, and leukocytes, 2 are cytes, 2 are phils. Basophils, neutrophils, monocyte, lymphocyte. So 3 of them, which is lymphocyte, monocyte, and neutrophils, they act as cellular barriers in innate immunity. And in the lymphocytes, the cells which acts are called NKCs. The full form is natural killer cells. Write down. So NKCs, which are lymphocytes, and they are a type of WBC. Monocytes, which again are a type of WBC, and neutrophils, which again are a type of WBCs. All these cells can kill pathogens in the body.
The basophils and eosinophils.
Yes, there are basophils and eosinophils. They are not here in innate immunity. Okay.
Yes, sir.
They
But
don't play a major.
they
Sorry?
they can kill the pathogens, right, sir?
Basophils and eosinophils can, like eosinophils can, but the point is, how to put it? They are, of course, they are, we call it disease fighting cells, but what they do is basically they figure out and they relay the signal. Okay. And whenever there is an infection in the body, their numbers increase. So the first cells to respond, or the numbers whose number increases the most, is neutrophils. So they if you see these numbers high, you can tell that the overall leukocyte number is high, and you can tell that there's an infection in the body. But you're right, they can participate in immunity, but majorly these 3 are the major players. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then there are some things which are called macrophages. So these all are present in blood. All the leukocytes are present in blood. So these cells are in the blood tissue. Apart from these cells, cellular barriers also happen through macrophages. The word macro means, what does macro means in biology? Big. Micro means small. And phages means
Killers.
eaters. More than killers, they are eaters. Phage. Bacteriophage was those that eat or kill bacteria. So macrophages are big eating cells, killing cells. They can digest other smaller particles or cells. So they are tissue. So we call them tissue resident macrophages. So write down. Macrophages are present in tissues, our body tissues, and they can phagocytose. You know this word? What does this mean? Phagocytose. The word cyto means in biology
Cell
cell,
or
and the
specifically.
yes, so phagocytosis means when one bigger cell engulfs another smaller cell, like amoeba does, right? Phagocytosis. You know phagocytosis, everyone? You
Yes, sir.
understand phagocytosis? Say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
So the macrophages phagocytose and degrade or destroy or digest, any word you can use. They phagocytose and destroy the microbes. And in fact, if you go to YouTube and internet and look at these macrophages under the microscope, there are many beautiful videos where in real time you can see these macrophages actually, or these white blood cells actually hunting down a bacteria. So the bacteria is trying to move away, and these macrophages are just like amoeba trying to move like this, sending the pseudopodia. So the bacteria is moving and they are moving behind, and then they engulf the bacteria and eat it and degrade it. That's exactly how they work. Make sense, everyone? The third
Yes.
barrier, cellular barrier, is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the fourth one, write down, is the molecular barrier, or we call it cytokine barrier. So these molecules are secreted by cells. So cyto and kine. So they are secreted by the cell itself. They are not cell, they are subcellular components, which are molecules within a cell. So cytokine barrier, we call it. And in this comes interferons. They are chemicals. Interferons. Now they work slightly different. Sometimes viruses infect cells, right? And viruses multiply, they are very sneaky. So cell will not know that there is a virus infection unless and until the virus multiply in such a great number that it bursts open the cell, and then it is ready to infect the other cell, right? Remember, I also told you that sometimes viruses just inject their genetic material, and those genetic material are they get incorporated in our own genetic material, and when we are replicating our DNA, we are also making copies of the viral protein, and we don't know about it. Remember, this kind of mechanism is called hijacking the system for their own benefit. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So just like sometimes hijackers, when they hijack a system, let's say, or an aeroplane for that matter, let's say. So what is the first thing they would like to do? Sever the connection, right? So
Yes,
that you
sir.
cannot call for help. Or do not, first thing to hijack, you have to disguise and enter. You cannot enter with a red flag saying that I am a hijacker, right? Body will just, macrophages will just kill you, like hold you, eat you and kill you. So they have to just evade everything. All these monocytes, lymphocytes, neutrophils, eosinophils, macrophages, and then enter the cell. Let's say somehow they entered, viruses have entered. Now virus infected cells, they start secreting, because once they are infected, they know that I am infected, right? Because viruses start multiplying. So the cell infected knows that it is infected. Make sense? But the other cells which are in the vicinity does not know. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this cell starts secreting these interferons, and these are proteins. Okay. So these interferons are proteins which signals the non-infected cells to prevent them from further infection to spread, and it works in many cases. So that's where you said in the beginning, right, that some people can be positive for some viral infections like COVID and HIV, but they are not having symptoms, right? So the fact that they are positive means the virus is in the body. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But the virus could not spread in such a number that it can start causing infection. It can start showing symptoms. Okay, so write down the in a viral infection, or write down virus infected cells.
Sir, these interferons, they signal other cells or they attack the virus, sir?
They don't attack viruses. They just tell other cells that there is a viral infection that has happened. So be aware, protect yourself. Do not let the virus in. They also give some information about the virus that's there, but we are not sure. It's a topic of research. We don't know. Do they just tell the cells that there is a viral infection, or do they also provide some information about the virus? How do they help the other cells to protect themselves against the virus? All these things are molecular details that people are trying to understand through immunological research.
Sir, and these interferons are released only in response to viruses or any other antigens, sir?
Mostly in response of viral infections, because for like or some other toxin infections also. Okay, so interferon, there are also something called interleukins, IL, which I think is not in the scope of your syllabus, but there are interleukins and interferons. So interferons mainly are produced in response of viral infections, and if it is a toxin infection or any chemical substance, interleukin are also produced if a bacterial infection happens. So bacteria is a living cell, but virus is not a cell. It is a particle which is non-living outside the host and starts multiplying in the host. So when bacteria causes infections, there is always some or the other kind of toxin that it will produce. Apart from, instead of like along with making its own copies, it also produces some or the other toxins. You understand? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So some ILs, interleukins, are also produced in response. But let's just stick to interferons for now. So write down virus infected cells. You can read about ILs. If any one of you have had infection and have had your blood test done, you will see this IL-3 or IL-1 levels in your blood report, interleukin levels. So virus infected cells start secreting interferons. Interferons, which protect, which signals and protect which signals and protects non-infected or healthy cells. Non-infected or healthy cells from infection. Okay. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, so this is about the innate immunity. Now let's come to the part which is more bulkier, adaptive immunity. Now you must have realized that in innate immunity, there is nothing which is giving specificity, right? Like we said, it is very general. Correct?
Yes,
For
sir.
any species or any strain of virus or any strain of bacteria, it will work the same. in all kind of infections. On the top of it, vertebrates have adaptive immunity, like we also already discussed, that it is acquired after the birth. So write down about something, right? Few things about acquired immunity. Acquired immunity is pathogen specific. Is pathogen specific, and this immunity has a memory. Okay. By memory, I mean they know after one encounter, they recognize the pathogen and they can remember the pathogen. So that's called molecular memory. But how do we know? How do we say that they have a memory?
It is
To figure
able
out.
to recognize.
But how do we know that? We are saying that, no? Maybe they are not recognizing. Maybe they are starting the fight every time from the ground zero. How do we know? What are the signs that tell us that, oh, they have a memory? How can you say that you went to your friend's home and your friend had a dog, a pet? So the first time you met that pet, it took some time to understand you. You went the next time. How can you say? Now it cannot talk to you. It cannot say, oh, hello, hi, I recognize you. But there will be some signs that because of which you can say that, oh, the pet recognized me.
So the dog is more calm around me this time.
Wagging the tail around, right?
It's not apprehensive.
Yes, not barking at you. So you can say that, okay, the dog is happy. Okay, so he recognized me. Similarly, how will you say that a molecule has a memory or an immune system has a memory against a pathogen? What are the signs there that you will look forward to?
It reacts more vigorously this time.
Faster and vigorous, right?
Yes, sir.
If the immune response is same every time, then it's probably not learning, right? Next,
Yes.
so if you got infected by a new pathogen and your body took 10 days to recover, if your body has a memory, next time when you will be infected, first your symptoms should be milder and your body should recover faster than before. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
These are the two signs which will tell that your body remembered the pathogen. If your body is taking longer and symptoms are even same or severe, then your body could not recover. Then it says that body had no memory of that, right?
Yes, sir.
But it does not happen. So write down this kind of immunity has a memory, and by memory write down this means that the primary response, this means that the primary response of the body when it encounters the pathogen for the first time, the primary response of the body when it encounters the pathogen for the first time is of low intensity, is of low intensity and may be slower, and may be slower. But upon subsequent encounter, but upon subsequent encounter with the same pathogen, with the same pathogen.
Can you say it again, sir?
But upon subsequent encounter with the same pathogen. Upon subsequent encounter with the same pathogen, the secondary response is faster and of high intensity. The secondary response is faster and of high intensity. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, remember I told you in the beginning that invertebrates just have innate immunity. Yeah. So can I say that every time an invertebrate is affected by any pathogen, it will take the same amount of time and same response of same intensity?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ideally they should, right? Because they just have innate immunity. And this secondary response, in some books, they use another word called an amnestic response. An amnestic response, which means it is a learned response. Okay, or memory response. It's not random, it's non-random. It has a direction, it remembers what to do. But what is common between both primary and secondary response in our adaptive immunity is what causes these response, which players are driving these response. So in secondary, this kind of adaptive immunity is also known as humoral immune response. You know, humoral immune response.
Sir,
If you
is it
don't know,
related to humorous?
it is related to the blood. Okay, that's why it's called humoral. Hemoral, it's also known as hemoral or humoral immune response.
Sir, so there is no relation to humorous.
No, it's not humorous. It's blood. It's more related to blood. Okay. So write down next thing. Both primary and secondary immune responses are carried out. So these responses, which is primary and secondary, are carried out. Anyone knows what causes adaptive immunity? What are the main players? Okay, write down. They are carried out by two special types of lymphocytes. Two special types of lymphocytes. Remember when here also lymphocytes are responsible, but only which type? NKCs, natural killer cells. Here the lymphocytes which are responsible are B lymphocytes, not the NKC, but the B lymphocytes. There are three types of lymphocytes: B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. what is their why B and T? I'll tell you. But B and T lymphocytes help in secondary immunity, whereas NKCs, which are another type of lymphocytes, they are playing a role in innate immunity. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now this about this B lymphocyte, it's called B because the word B here stands for bone marrow. So they are coming from here, bone marrow lymphocytes. So they are derived from the bone marrow. The T here in T lymphocytes stands for thymus. They have a thymus origin. They are derived from thymus. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So T, in common language, you can also call them B cells and T cells. Okay. You know, HIV is kind of a immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV causes immunodeficiency syndrome, which is called AIDS.
Yes, sir.
That is an acquired immunodeficiency syndrome where the virus HIV starts attacking and killing the T cells, the T lymphocytes. In T also there are categories. So they specifically kill helper T cells, helper T lymphocytes. So basically they are killing T, just know that. So if T lymphocytes are dead, then your antibody, your immune response towards any other thing will decrease, right? So that's why people who have AIDS, they do not just die of AIDS. Like AIDS, it in itself does not cause problem, but they die of any other infection because now their immune system is compromised. So they either die of pneumonia, other kind of infectious diseases, etc. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Everyone is on the same page till here about immunity. Say yes or no? Then I'll
Yes,
move
sir.
forward.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, what's special about B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes? So let's go into some details, biological detail. So let me start with B lymphocytes. Just remember that the B lymphocytes produce antibodies. Okay. T lymphocytes don't produce antibodies. B lymphocytes produce antibodies. And what are antibodies? Anyone knows what are antibodies?
Sir, they're like molecules or protein molecules which are
Yes.
used to fight against the pathogens.
They are an, yes, instead of fighting, they recognize and bind to the pathogen. So they are an army. Antibodies are an army of proteins. And their name is antibodies because anti means
Against.
against. Body means anybody, something which they are against and they bind on it. Okay, they attach to it. Antibiotic means
Against life.
which life? The pathogen's life. Okay. Biotic against not our life. So if I take antibiotic, I will not die. But what will die?
The pathogen.
Because it's against the pathogen, because that is also a living system. So it's against that life, but against life. This is against a body on which it can go and bind. Now, what happens when antibodies bind? Why you can just bind? Now, what's the problem? So first write down antibodies are army of protein which are generated. Army of proteins which are generated by the B lymphocytes in response to any pathogen in the blood. So anything which is in the blood and is a pathogen, these B lymphocytes will sense it and will produce proteins against it, which will go and bind to it and helps us fight to them. Okay. Now also let's figure out what do T lymphocytes do. So why are they called helper cells? They help. So T lymphocytes do not produce antibodies, but they help the B lymphocytes to produce antibodies. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So write down. T cells themselves do not secrete antibodies. Write it here only in a star mark or something. T cells themselves do not secrete antibodies, but help the B cells to produce them. Help the B cells to produce them. Now, what does antibody looks like? So antibody looks like a Y structure. So it has two heavy chains. Okay. These are long and heavy chains, and then it has two light chains. This is a typical diagram of an antibody. So these two are called heavy chains, and this is a light chain. Same as this. Okay. So two heavy chain and two light chains. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
And towards where the light chain is bound, so this is the nitrogen end, N terminal and C terminal. So proteins have a N terminal and a C terminal, nitrogen terminal and carbon terminal. Because if they are protein, they must be forming from amino acids, right? What is the structure of amino acid? A central carbon with the R group, a hydrogen, a amino group NH3, and a carboxylic group COH, right? So this is the carbon end and this is the nitrogen end. So all their amino acids are arranged in a way where this is the nitrogen end and this is the carbon end. We call it N and C terminal. And towards the N terminal, this region is the antigen binding site. So this will also be a ABS, antigen binding site. Now you should remember that these two light chains are not just, they are bound together like this. So they are bound together by sulfide linkage. Sulfur bound to sulfur. They are called sulfide linkage, SS linkage. SS linkage. Sulfur linkage. And these two heavy chains are also bound. So they are connected with each other through sulfide linkage at multiple places. Here also. So these will also be sulfur linkage, sulfur linkage. And among themselves also there will be sulfur linkage. You understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So there are two heavy chains, two light chains. Light chains and heavy chains are connected together by sulfide linkage. Heavy chains and heavy chains are also connected together by sulfide linkage. And towards the N terminal, where both light chain and heavy chain is present, in between them, this is the site for antigen binding. Okay. Now, you can see that each antibody has how many chains? 4. 2 light, 2 heavy. And one antibody has how many antibody binding sites?
2, sir.
2 antibody binding site. Now this is the special thing about an antibody. If one antibody can bind to 2 antigens and every antibody can do that, what will happen? Think about it. Okay, I leave you with this question, that what if every antibody was having just one antigen binding site? Write down this question, think about it, go to internet, search about it, figure out an answer. Write down, if how does multiple antigen binding sites or 2 antigen binding sites in one single antibody helps in immunity? Okay, we'll start from write this here only with antibodies in the next
So can you
class.
repeat the question again?
How does 2 antibody site and sorry, how does 2 antigen binding sites present in one antibody helps in immunity? In other words, what I'm trying to ask is, if there was only one antigen binding site, then what would have been the difference? Okay,
Sir, the immune response will be slower because it will not be able to bind more antigen particles faster.
will it be slower or will there be no response at all? Think about it. Okay, okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Nabil. So I'll see you all in the next class, and we'll start with antibodies, and then we'll go to vaccination and allergies in the next class. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay, so see you all in the next class. Bye bye.